Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the GioMoShow, right here on 88.3 FM WXOU on our new showtime of Mondays at noon for your home for Oakland sports and beyond on 88.3 FM WXOU, Auburn Hills, Michigan, Oakland University, with all the wonderful station identification features. I am your host and sports media director of WXOU, Giovanni Mosheri, and as mentioned, the GioMoShow is your home for all Oakland sports and beyond on 88.3 FM. Don't forget to follow WXOU on our MAB award-winning social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And our social media has been nominated as one of the finalists in this year's MAB Student Media Awards. So be sure to give them a follow. Once again, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Join our WXOU Discord server to get to know everybody at the station and stay connected to all things WXOU. And finally, you could go to our website, WXOU.org, for all your information, show times, game summaries, and all the sports content we got. You can find it on WXOU.org, and you can stream WXOU there as well. And while you're on the internet, while you're searching social media and going everywhere to find WXOU, I am not that far away from it. Be sure to go follow me on social media as well. If you're rewatching me on YouTube, you can see all that information on screen, and if not, you can follow me on Instagram at the GioMoShow on Instagram and on Twitter at GioMosheri WXOU. So you can find me, get all the updates and news on the show itself. And if you're not watching with me right now, if you're not listening with me right now, on 88.3 FM, on WXOU.org, on the TuneIn Radio app, and I'm for you guys at any time on YouTube and Spotify. So we got a lot to cover. It's been since January 4th that I've been on the show in the studio here because we did the shift in the show time, kind of delayed some of your Oakland news as well as your Detroit Lions news. I gave you guys my thoughts before the playoff game yesterday, I believe it released on YouTube, so you can find that as well. It's also on Spotify. You could get my thoughts leading up to the game, my picks for the playoff games that happened this weekend and will continue to happen later tonight and today. You can find all that on the YouTube channel. Just search the GioMoShow. There's nothing else spelled like it. So otherwise, what we're talking about on the show here, we got 8 basketball games to cover, and I'm going to go through them a little bit quicker than I usually do, just for the sake of time. So we got 4 men's games, we got 4 women's games, and we got to give you the news on all of that. And then we're going to be getting into the Detroit Lions' freaking badass win over the LA Rams in the wild card round. And then we'll kind of go over the rest of the playoffs so far, giving you a little bit more of my thoughts on the upcoming Monday games, or the games today, that being the Bucks and the Eagles, as well as the Bills and the Steelers. I'll kind of give you guys my thoughts, review my picks for those games as well. And then that will do it for the GioMoShow. I guess I can't quite do the picks for next round because we don't know the matchups yet, but be sure to stay tuned on Spotify and social media. I'll give you guys my thoughts on it before all the games happen in due time. So let's get started right now with Oakland men's basketball. I tried to match together OU and Oakland, but either way, we got a lot of basketball to cover. So we'll start on January 4th. The last time we were here on the GioMoShow, it was Oakland hosting Milwaukee. After all these road games that they've been playing, they finally have a big homestand and a lot of home games in succession. This one was the start of it. Against Milwaukee, the first day of the semester, it was a high-scoring, electric, exciting event. In an Oakland win, a winning score, 100-95. It was just awesome to see. I was in the stands for this one, in the game following, and even, I believe, the game following as well. I had a bit of a break when it came to the broadcasting, so I got to enjoy the games from the comfort of the student section and the Grizz gang. So, and these games were, I would say, worth going to. The energy in the building was insane for these home games. But to give you guys kind of just the quick stats, I could really only give you the score, the vibe, and the box score, and then we'll move on to the next game. So for Oakland's win over Milwaukee, Trey Townsend led the team in scoring 28 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. It was 8 of 18 from the floor, 12 of 14 from the free throw line. That's what some of his best free throwing shooting days that we've seen from him this season. Blake Lampman is continuing to light it up. He's continuing to light the lamp, if you will. 19 points, 5 of 15 from the field, 5 of 12 from 3, 4 of 5 from the line, 2 rebounds, 4 assists. The return of Blake Lampman has been something this team has greatly appreciated. I don't quite want to say that they needed it, but it sure is helpful to have your fifth-year senior back on and performing the way that he has been doing. And then third in scoring was Rocket Watts. Efficient, 4 of 7 from the field, 6 of 7 from the line. Only got to play 18 minutes. But otherwise, you got Chris Conway, Jack Golke. They scored in double digits in a game that was just very fun to watch at the top of the month. So that next week, or that same weekend, Saturday, January 6th, was a home game against Green Bay. And this was not the Green Bay that we saw last season that was at the bottom of the Horizon League. This is a team that has had a quick rebuild and has acquired one of the best players in the Horizon League, of which the name I have forgotten, but I'll get it to you in a little bit. But this was another game. This one was not as high scoring as the Milwaukee game. I mean, scoring 100 points is not something you could quite expect very often, but it's something that Oakland is built to do. Sorry, Googling it at the same time. I'm trying to figure out who that player from Green Bay is from, because he's a new addition to the team, and he's projected to be, one of the top scorers preseason. But either way, final score of that game was an Oakland win 79-73 over the new Green Bay Phoenix. And again, the energy in that building was also electric. It really was. And in these past few home games in the arena, especially now that Oakland, and to kind of spoil some of the rest of the games, are on a 5-game win streak, the building has been bumping. Campy says it's not quite as loud as it used to be, but we're definitely on the way to getting that same energy back in the now OU Credit Union arena. But either way, the Googling of Green Bay's roster has not been helping me, so we'll move on to the box score of this game. Trey Townsend, another 28-point game, 10 of 16 from the floor, shot a 3, couldn't make it, 8 of 13 from the line, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals. Dude, that game, Trey Townsend has been on a heater, and this is more or less business as usual all season long. Last I checked, he was 5th in the Horizon League in scoring. At least that was as of last Wednesday as they faced Northern Kentucky, but we're not there yet. So let's continue. Blake Lampman, another repeat 19 game, 7 of 15 from the floor, 5 of 11 from 3. And with 2 assists, a block, and 3 steals as well. Isaiah Jones, 12 points, 2 of 3 from the floor, 8 of 10 from the line. He came up big later in the game with those free throws. And it's not something, we've usually seen Rocket Watts take the we'll call it the clutch free throws at the end of the game. But Isaiah Jones absolutely stepped up to get Oakland that much more comfortable multi-possession lead at the end of the game when the game was still close. So then we move on to Wednesday, January 10th, the birthday of the host here. I got to call this game with Drew Allison. This one was close the entire way through. And the building, again, was very, very loud. You guys in the Grizz Gang have been fantastic these past few games in bringing the energy. It has an absolute effect on the floor. I don't know if you guys realize that when you go to games, but when you're up and active and you get going, the players react to it. The Oakland players, that's the adrenaline that they need to continue into the to continue playing in the game, and especially one that was like this one against Northern Kentucky. This one went into overtime with an Oakland win 70-65. So the players, they needed all the juice that they could get, and the energy that you guys provide in the Grizz Gang is incredible in helping us do that and helping them do that. I'm not playing. I'm not us, but. Moving on to the box score of this overtime win over the reigning Horizon League champions. Let me get a little more story for this game just because I studied it more from being able to cover it. But Northern Kentucky, they beat Oakland in the arena 5 years in a row. And while Oakland has beaten Northern Kentucky in their building, it's been since 2019 that Oakland got a win against the Norse in Rochester. And this overtime game provided a break to that streak. And it's also the fact that Northern Kentucky is the reigning Horizon League champions. They won it last year, and they got to play University of Houston in the NCAA tournament. That didn't win it, obviously, but those are one of the top dogs in the league. And you beat them, and you went to overtime. You hung with them the whole way. The defense was great the entire game. So overall, that was just a really fun game. Let's get to the box score. Trey Townsend, again, leading in scoring, 18 points, 6 of 15 from the floor, 6 of 9 from the stripe, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists and a steal. DQ Cole stepped up in that game with huge threes towards the end of regulation to keep Oakland in it. And Rocket Watts, who had 10 points in that game, continued those clutch shooting, or continue some of the clutch shooting in overtime with a couple of transitions, stop on a dime jump shots from mid-range. It was just a great game overall. Once again, DQ Cole, 17 points, Rocket Watts, 10 points, and then Jack Golke made a couple of threes and got 3 from the line to give him 9 points. So now moving on, that was the fourth game. That was the fourth win in a row for Oakland. And now the fifth one in a row was on the road at IUPUI. I was not able to pay attention much to this game, looking more at the box score, but the reason for that was that the women's team was playing Detroit at the time. We got some updates from Kevin Beers at halftime and at the end of the game. And we'll talk about that later. Women's basketball is coming up next here, but this is the final men's game to cover here, as Oakland beat the Jaguars convincingly by 22, 88-66 in the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, where they host the semifinal rounds and the finals of the Horizon League tournament. DQ Cole led the team in scoring with this one with an excellent 19-point game, 7 of 13 from the floor, only 1 of 5 from 3, but made all 4 of his free throws, 8 rebounds, 2 assists as well, and DQ Cole has just been an incredible player for the Golden Grizzlies these past few games. Rocket Watts, second in scoring, 16 points, 5 of 9 from the floor, 2 of 4 from 3, 4 of 4 from the line, with 2 assists as well. And Isaiah Jones, first of all, let me just kind of preference this. We had 6 Golden Grizzlies score in double figures. So I'm not going to name all of them, but Isaiah Jones was third in scoring, 14 points, 5 of 8 from the floor, and 4 of 5 from the line. Led the team with 9 rebounds as well, along with 4 assists, a block, and a steal. This Golden Grizzlies team has been great, man, and it's been from everywhere. Trey Townsend obviously leads the team in scoring, and like I mentioned, he's top 5 in scoring in the Horizon League, but the team's got depth now. The attack can come from anywhere. It could be a Trey Townsend game like we saw against the Wisconsin teams where he had 28 points. It could be deep from 3 with Jack Golke, or from Blake Lampman, or from DQ Cole. Rocket Watts can come off the bench like a bolt of lightning and give you a very efficient, 10 to 15 points. Naival Arua can, be a monster on the glass. Chris Conway can get it going inside. Like, the team is deep, everybody. This is definitely one of the better teams. Campy has said this is one of his best teams, one of his deepest teams that he's had his entire time here at Oakland University. It's looking that way, too. And that brings Oakland top of the Horizon League right now. They are the first seed. And with a 5-game win streak in the league, it's going to get you to first place. Let me get you guys the standings so far. So with that 5-game win streak, Oakland is 6-2 in conference, is 11-8 overall. But looking at the standings now, again, this must have been a recent development, but Green Bay has taken Oakland in the first place spot but they have identical records, and Oakland has more of a win streak. I'm not totally certain on how these things are ranked when it comes to like tying records, but either way, let's say Oakland is tied for first place with Green Bay at 6-2 in conference. And then we got Youngstown 5-2 in conference. I'm just going to say the conference records. Milwaukee 4-2, Fort Wayne 4-3, and Northern Kentucky also 4-3. And it goes down from there. But, you know, we're sitting at the top half here. That's where we're concerned. But either way, the Golden Grizzlies men's basketball team is doing great. And they will be playing once again in the arena this Wednesday coming up. That's 2 days from now. January 17th, they will host the Youngstown State Penguins. As mentioned, they are third in the Horizon League. So that's going to be a big game against one of the better teams in the league. We beat them in their house earlier this season. So this one's going to go for the season sweep against the Youngstown State Penguins. So that game is going to be Wednesday, 7 o'clock. You can hear it right here on WXOU. I'm going to be on play-by-play. Drew Allison is going to be with me on color. Let me make sure that I know I'm doing play-by-play. Yes, it's going to be me on play-by-play, Drew Allison on color, and Harsh Brutar in the studio. It's going to be a great, great game. Hope you guys tune in, and if you are able, just go to the game. I know I'm here for WXOU. I know I promote the sports content that we got here. I put a lot of work into that sports content, but we're here for if you can't be there. If you could go to the arena, if you could be in the stands, and you could cause a ruckus, a respectful one, and get the energy in the building, go to the game. It won't hurt my feelings. And that is that for men's basketball. I do want to make one point when it comes to, and I know this might come off as a little bit weird, but I feel like I have a little bit of clout when it comes to etiquette in the arena, when it comes to cheering, and when it comes to getting that home field advantage. Here's my theory and here's my philosophy on how to properly do that. One is that you can, and I encourage you guys obviously to go with the pep band, to go with the cheer team with your guys' chants. You need to get the beat going. You need to have it echo in the building. But you guys have a little bit more freedom in the student section when it comes to what you can say. Obviously, the PA, the band, and the cheer team, they have their rules, and they can't go too personal when it comes to, how they cheer. But you guys in the stands, you do have a little bit more freedom. You guys they have the rosters out in the front, before you get into the arena. You know their names. What I'd like to do is I like to find their names and find something funny to say, or find some way to just kind of annoy the other team a little bit. For example, there's a guy on Northern Kentucky. His last name is Duffy. So I'm in the stands, or no, this is Milwaukee. They got a guy named Duffy, and I kept calling him Rubber Duffy, like a rubber ducky. But you get creative when it comes to what you're doing in the stands. Don't keep it civil. I don't curse, and I don't get too personal when it comes to what I say to the players. But I get a little bit of edge to it. Toe the line just a little bit. Don't get kicked out. Don't throw things. Don't swear. But you guys have a lot more freedom with what you can say respectfully. Kind of a weird PSA, but I wanted to make that known to you guys. Just have some fun in there. You're college students. You're in the student section. You can only get rowdy like that at a basketball game while you're at school. It's not very often that you see an alumni get as crazy at a game as the students do. So take advantage of it. You're only a student for so long. Take advantage of your excitement in the stands. So that'll wrap up the men's basketball section of the GioMoShow. We're going to get into women's basketball real soon. But before we do, I got to tell you about the Blue Ski Masks show coming up soon on WXOU, Mondays at 2 p.m. It is your home for Detroit Lions and Detroit Pistons. on WXOU. Hosted by Oakland Post sports editor Brock Hillig and sports reporter Kirk Szymanski, they'll take you on an exhilarating ride through the world of Detroit Lions and Detroit Pistons. They got in-depth analysis, player spotlights, game reviews, expert insights, centered all around the action in the Motor City. So stay connected and stay tuned. 2 p.m. on Mondays for the Blue Ski Mask Show on WXOU. We'll be right back with women's basketball before we get into the Detroit Lions. Welcome back, everybody, to the GioMoShow, your home for Oakland sports and beyond on WXOU. We got women's basketball to cover. We got 4 games to cover since we last spoke on January 4th. And it's a lot of Oakland basketball to be talking about. We just talked about men's basketball, and if you missed it, then you can find it on YouTube later today on the GioMoShow's YouTube page as well as on Spotify. So be sure to like and subscribe to find all of the GioMoShow on YouTube and Spotify. But getting into women's basketball, we got 4 games as mentioned. 3 of them were on the road. So it's been a bit of a road trip for the women's team. They did have a home game most recently against Detroit Mercy, but we'll get to that in just a moment. On the road, they faced Youngstown State in a loss 63-70. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch these games, stay tuned to these games too often. This game was played January 3rd, or Wednesday, January 3rd. But I'll give you the box score for the game. Once again, a loss for the Golden Grizzlies, 63-70 against the Youngstown State Penguins. Brooke Quarles-Daniels was 5 of 10 from the floor and 5 of 8 from the free throw line. Had 11 rebounds, 2 assists to get her 15 points. That led the team. Alexis Johnson, 6 of 13 from the floor, 2 of 5 from 3 with 2 rebounds, a block, and a steal. She had 14 points, second on the team. And then Markiah McCormick rounded out the double-digit scoring for the Golden Grizzlies with 11 points, 4 of 14 from the floor, and 0 of 6 from 3, 3 of 4 from the line as well. And Linda Van Schaik led the team in rebounds with 13. Just when you thought Brooke Quarles-Daniels' 11 rebounds was a lot, Linda Van Schaik, 13 rebounds on 8 points. 6 of them were offensive rebounds. So 6 and 7 were the offensive and defensive rebound splits. That's pretty darn good for the rebounding department. But either way, that will end in a loss to the Penguins. Moving on to January 7th. That's a Sunday at noon game at Robert Morris. This one was a win for the Golden Grizzlies, 64-58 over the Moon Township native Robert Morris Colonials. In that game, Kennedy Montague led in scoring with 14 points, an efficient 5 of 9 from the floor, 2 of 4 from 3, with 2 of 4 from the line as well. Second on the team in scoring was Maddie Skorupski, 11 points, 5 of 6 from the floor. She missed one shot, dude, and made 1 of 1 from her threes, and that's just about as efficient as you could get for 11 points. Markiah McCormick was third on the team in scoring with 10 points, 3 of 9 from the floor, 1 of 5 from 3, 3 of 3 from the line. And then leading in rebounds once again was Brooke Quarles-Daniels by a long shot. 10 rebounds on the day, although the offense wasn't there for her. She made up for it with the rebounding. So once again, final score, 64-58 over the Robert Morris Colonials. Golden Grizzlies get the win on the road. And then they head to Purdue Fort Wayne on Wednesday at 7 p.m., same time as Oakland was hosting Northern Kentucky, so I had my focus elsewhere, unfortunately. But this game ended in a loss to Purdue Fort Wayne, solidifying the sweep of the Mastodons over the Golden Grizzlies, losing 59-79. Box score for this game, Markiah McCormick led the team in scoring, 17 points, 6 of 14 from the floor, 3 of 6 from 3, and 2 of 2 from the line. Great offensive night for McCormick. Quarles-Daniels was 13 points, 5 of 10 from the floor, 3 of 6 from the line, with 9 rebounds, leading the team in rebounding for a third game in a row. Or not quite, but 2 of the past 3 games she's led in rebounding, and most of them have been in double digits. And then third on the team in scoring was Miriam Ibizam, 10 points, 2 of 3 from the floor, and went to the free throw line for 11 shots. She made 6 of them. She had 8 rebounds on the night as well. Excuse me. And finally, we get to the latest game. This one was just this past Saturday against Detroit Mercy. Even though the blizzard came through and ravaged the town, the crowd was still big in the arena for the rivalry game against the Detroit Mercy Titans. And this isn't the same Titans team that you would think when you think of the men's team that haven't won a game this season. No, this women's team for Detroit Mercy is definitely one that has been making noise in the Horizon League. As it stands right now, Detroit is 5th in the league. They were 4-2 coming into the game against the Golden Grizzlies and have 2 of the best rebounders in the league. I remember for when I covered them, we went to Detroit to call the game on WXOU, and Irene Mudwa, I believe still is the top rebounder in the Horizon League. Let me make sure on that just while I'm at it. She is not, but she definitely was up there earlier in the Horizon League season. Hold on. No, she's second place in the Horizon League in rebounds. And then third place is her teammate, Emma Torali Porta. So they got 2 of the top 3 rebounders in the league. So it wasn't, it's not Detroit Mercy that's like, oh, whatever, it's a throwaway game. This is tough. This is tough competition. And what did the Golden Grizzlies do against that tough competition in the arena? Blew the doors off them, man. Leading by 30 for a lot of the second half of the game, and it wasn't close for most of that game. 89-55 was the final score against the Titans. Getting to the box score, Kennedy Montu led with 20 points. She was 6 of 10 from the floor and sharpshooter from 3, 4 of 7, and she made 4 of her 6 free throws as well. Excuse me. Miriam Ibizam, 14 points, was second on the team in scoring, 4 of 6 from the floor, 6 of 10 from the line, and 11 rebounds. 7 of them were offensive rebounds. And then Linda Van Schaik, 12 points, 5 of 10 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. And we had a couple more Golden Grizzlies in double digits. Quarles Daniels with 11 and Alexis Johnson with 10. It was a beatdown of the Titans. I was in the stands for that one. I think it was my best heckling game of the year because I got one of the players to tell me to shut up. And again, I wasn't swearing at them. I wasn't saying anything about their mother or anything. I was just simply saying, I would start a quick chant of something like down by 20. Something like that. Something fun. I got her to tell me to shut up. I had people in the Detroit audience telling me to shut up, and some of them even approached me after the game talking about how I talk so much for someone who doesn't play. So that was my best heckling game of the season, and I sure had a lot of fun with it. There was one moment, and I'll say this just before we go into break and talk about the Detroit Lions, but there was one funny moment when I was in the stands where, Detroit was down by 30. They were, the score was up there often throughout the game, and Detroit Mercy's coach has quite the voice and is very passionate on the sideline, on the bench with her team, and the team must have had a reaction to a foul call in favor of Oakland, and the coach was yelling in their face saying, "Stop complaining about the refs. They're just outplaying you." And I'm on the side closest to the bench, so I just go, "Hell yeah, coach." So if you needed examples of things to shout at the game, I thought that one was hilarious. I had a lot of fun in that game, and so did the rest of the student section. So with that leaves the Golden Grizzlies in the Horizon League. They are 3-4 in conference. That would make them 7th place in the Horizon League. And remember, they finished 8th place last year. So there's still a lot of season to go. 3-4 in the conference, 7-8 overall. There's still a lot of basketball left to play. So don't start giving up hope for our Golden Grizzlies teams. Both our teams, men's and women's, are rocking. We're going to send it to break here on WXOU before we talk about the Detroit Lions. And once again, just to mention, before we get into break, women's basketball's next game is Thursday at 7 o'clock. That's this Thursday against the Milwaukee Panthers. We'll have the call for that as well on WXOU. It'll be Joey Hayes and Gavin Smolowski as your crew with Kayla Snell in the studio. We'll have Drew Allison making his sideline debut for that game as well. Once again, that is Thursday at 7 o'clock against Milwaukee for women's basketball. We're going to take a break here on WXOU, and we'll get into the Detroit Lions winning against the Los Angeles Rams. Right here on the GioMoShow. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to the GioMoShow. It is now time to finally talk about the Detroit Lions. If you didn't hear, they won last week in the playoffs at home against Matthew Stafford and the Rams. How about that? The game was wild. And let me kind of back up to even before the game. Something I was starting to notice in the playoffs was that teams were getting blown out and destroyed. The Texans, and we'll get into this later after the Lions segment, but we'll get into the rest of the wild card games as well. But the Texans blew out the Browns, and the Packers demolished the Cowboys. The Chiefs, I understand the weather was a thing, but it wasn't close in the Chiefs and Dolphins game. Chiefs destroyed the Dolphins. So going into this game, 3 games in a row have been blowouts, one way or the other, and obviously the nerves start to set in. Is that the trend? Are we next? Is that what the game is going to be? Who's going to blow out who? Because it seemed evenly matched. It could have been anybody. But it ended up not being that way. It ended up being a very, very close game. One that you never knew how it was going to end until it ended. And I got so many thoughts on this game. I couldn't go to sleep last night without kind of writing down everything I thought about the game. Just before I went to sleep, like, I gotta get this out. I have to write it down. In the list, for those who are just listening, didn't see me put the piece of paper up to the camera, but I got like an entire sheet filled of notes, and they're all over the place. So I'll do my best to sort through them for you guys on my thoughts of the game. So I want to start with just the win and what it means. So obviously everybody knows that the stakes were high for the Detroit Lions. We knew that history was on the line, and we knew that new legacies were going to be carved in this game. That's what the playoffs do. They create and carve legacies. So the legacy being the Lions not winning a playoff game in 30 years. The Lions not even hosting a playoff game in also around 30 years. So this game meant a lot. This is the first playoff game ever hosted in Ford Field where the Lions were playing. I say it that way because the Super Bowl was held in Ford Field and the Lions were not in it. That was the Seahawks-Steelers one. Jerome Bettis, his bus ride stopped in Detroit. But that was the only playoff game that's ever been held in Ford Field until now. And the Lions came out on fire. The running game on the first 2 drives, I swear it was like 7 yards a carry. It was unstoppable at first. Started with Montgomery and then ended with Gibbs in the first half running the ball. It was spectacular. And you usually know when that happens in a game, when the running game just starts off on fire. Sadly, a lot of times it doesn't continue into the second half because of adjustments. Simple adjustments are being made both by the Rams defense to adjust to the run and the Lions adjusting to the potential adjustments away from the run. So you knew that the running game, at least I knew, the running game was not going to be that dominant the entire game. But it gave the Lions a very early, very strong lead in the game to start, and it put the Rams behind the 8 ball real quick. But the thing that was scaring me was all the times in Detroit where Matt Stafford made a fourth quarter comeback. You knew that even with that big lead, it was, I believe it was like 21-3 or 21-7 with multiple possession lead. You still are nervous. You still know Stafford's potential and proclivity for comebacks. Not really in the playoffs, but in general. So for me, and when we won the game, it was the feeling. I didn't get the same feeling everybody else did. It was like I wasn't in tears like some of the fans were, and I'm not saying it like you shouldn't have been. But for me, the way the game was, the fact that we got out to such an early win changed my reaction to the game, because if it was a comeback similar to what we should have had in Dallas, then absolutely I would have been up and crazy, and I might have cried a little bit. But this game was the Lions having an early lead and having to hold on for the rest of the game. So it wasn't a, yes, we won, we did it. It was a, we survived, we did it, hooray. Like, still excited, of course. Still over the moon about the game, but just the nature of it was like, whew, we survived. Because we knew that our defense and our secondary was not stopping the Rams. That Rams offense was really, really good. Puka Nacua is legendary, dude. And I couldn't believe how hard he was to tackle for the Lions. Of course, when you go in like you got no arms and you don't wrap up, yeah, it's going to be hard to tackle somebody. But that kid was fantastic. You set a record for rookie receiving yards in the playoffs. Like, I mean, yes, a specific record, but I mean that's substantial. That is significant for Puka Nacua. So, congratulations. So, I'll give my flowers to the Rams. Their offense is fantastic. Stafford was an Iron Man in this game, just like he was back in the old days in Detroit. Him and Nacua, they got a beating throughout that game. And to be able to still perform was admirable, I would say. Now the game's over, I could be a little bit more appreciative of, have a little bit more sentimentality for the Rams. They played excellent, man. They didn't back down after we got up big. They kept fighting, and they made it interesting the entire way through. But on the flip side of that, so talk about how the Rams offense was incredible. Our defense, yikes. It's not, this isn't a surprise. Everyone, when we were talking about this game, knew that this was a weakness. And knew that the Rams' strength was the Lions' weakness. And that was absolutely apparent from the word go. Like I mentioned, Nacua had all these yards. Stafford had all these yards. And it's just Nacua, and even Kupp at a few points, they looked unstoppable. But it was also the idea of, how is he so wide open? How are we not tackling him? How is this happening the way that it is? Just that secondary, man. And I'll tell you what, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I love the guy. I love his attitude. I love his energy. I know you have to kind of talk and be that kind of guy when you're a defensive back. I know that. You have to have that attitude to be good at your job. You got to talk trash. But I didn't think this was his best game, man. There were times where he whiffed on tackles. There was times where, he was, we'll say he was responsible for a few, plays. But it's just, I didn't see that big performance that I was expecting out of the veteran defensive back one who's played in the playoffs many times. I didn't quite see that from him. But in just overall the defense, Cam Sutton, he's good. He's a veteran. He's a leader, but he's slow, dude. I don't know if it's the injury that he had. I remember he was questionable for the Dallas game. I don't know if it's something like that that's still nagging, but the defensive backs, they just look kind of slow. They couldn't cover one step and wide open. If you miss your one step, the Nakula's gone. But that was definitely a weakness, and that definitely got me sweating throughout the game. But it doesn't matter. Right now, it doesn't matter. We won the game. We got to Stafford. We pressured him. We kicked the crap out of him physically. He smashed his hand against Ali McNeil's helmet. There was that pretty, almost scary hit by Hutchinson and then McNeil where, it was after the throw. There was nothing anybody could have done to stop the motion. And it wasn't dirty, but Stafford took one hit from Hutchinson from one side and then got buried with another hit from McNeil and slammed right to the ground. His head whiplashed onto the turf and his eyes were wide open. And you thought that he was out of the game. And you thought that it was going to look really, really bad. Thank goodness that he was able to come out of the blue tent to continue playing. Because that's not... I know that it would have benefited us to see Carson Wentz on the field, but that's not good sportsmanship. I don't like that. That's not admirable to me. It wasn't on purpose, but if it happened, it's like, man, that's not what I wanted. That's not what we wanted. But thank goodness he was good enough to keep playing with the bloody hand and all the sore ribs from all the hits that he took. The Lions defense punished Matthew Stafford that game. So the defense, as bad as the secondary was, we held up and we maintained the win. Talk about the Lions offense. It's fantastic, dude. Montgomery and Gibbs are amazing. The offensive line is amazing. Josh Reynolds was definitely being fed the ball for his sort of slice of the revenge game. He did well himself. I remember there were a couple of plays where it wasn't wasn't pretty, or it wasn't the best, but overall, he did a good job. Sam Laporta catching the only passing touchdown of the game after a hyperextended knee and bone bruise. I'm sure that thing had to hurt. He had freaking heating pads on his knee throughout the game, and he had 3 catches. He had the touchdown. Without him, he's a huge piece. I know we didn't use him all that much, but that was a huge piece of the offense. To see him gut through it was amazing. And Jared Goff, I have mixed thoughts on this game. Let me give you the negative first, because when I leave you with the positive, that's what you remember. But I will say with Jared Goff, it looked ugly when he was under pressure. We know that. We know that's what he is. But it looked especially bad when he was under pressure. He's really, really immobile. He can really, I would say that, it's not that he, physically can't run. It's not like Roethlisberger in his last few seasons. Goff can run forward and in single directions, but he does not have a lot of agility. Side-to-side movement, quickness, and regaining balance after one shoelace is taken out. It's just there were times where he looked really unathletic, and it got me really worried. The one play, it was one play, I understand, but this play could have ruined the game. I can't remember what down it was, but if you guys watched the game, you know. The play where he was being pressured and being tackled, and he chest passes the ball onto the ground. He was looking for his tight end. I believe it was Brock Wright, but he was looking for the tight end next to him. He two-handed chest passed it to him, and it just bobbles on the ground. I couldn't believe that play. Hello to Professor Gilbert over by the window. But I couldn't believe that was something that he did in a playoff game. it looked like it looked like my baby cousin Sammy, dude. I was so shocked that play, one, happened, and two, didn't cost us the game, because that could have been a scoop and score real quick. And it ended up losing us 5 yards. When if he just went down, he would have saved a few yards. That play was really bad, and there were moments in the game. I will admit, I love Goff. I'm getting to some positive stuff in a bit, but I understand the argument of people saying that that he can't win a Super Bowl. People say that. People still stand on that. They don't want to play, or they don't want to pay and extend Goff, and because of the things that we saw during the game. Unathletic, no agility, bad under pressure. I don't fully agree with it, but I understand it. There were moments where it looked bad. Now let's go to the positives. Dude, we won, first of all. And two, basically all the plays outside of that, when he wasn't really being pressured. I think I saw the stat. I heard it on the radio, and the radio was quoting somebody else, so forgive me if the translations are lost a little bit. But I believe this was from Field Yates. He always has fantastic stats on Twitter. I think that was his name. But he said that when Goff was not being pressured, he was 22 of 22. Like, perfect. When he's not pressured. Well, when you got an O-line that can give him those situations of no pressure, it works. This is a team to where it can work. So, yeah, no, I'm sorry. He can't do everything by himself. That's okay. Because it can still result in wins. He could still throw the ball very, very well. Now, it doesn't have to be Josh Allen's 70-yard arm punts. An explosive play is calculated by a play of 20-plus yards. We get plays like that often. We are one of the best teams at explosive plays in the NFL. That is statistics. That is facts. Those are numbers. But he doesn't have to do everything. This is a team built correctly for his abilities. And it works. Unfortunately, with that, the pressure dials up as you get more into the playoffs. As you go on, the teams that make it and the teams that remain have good pass rushes. So that O-line is going to have to step up as well to be able to counter that and to give Goff the best conditions possible. But even with that, you got a run game too. They have a run game that could just gouge your eyes out, man, in a good way. I don't know how that could be a good way, but the run game is also superb. It's fantastic. So it works. The system is built to work for Goff. And guess what? It's not like we're getting another system this season. This is the one we got. So for this season and for this postseason, and for potential ones down the road, understand it's built to work this way. Just because it's not the way you would build it doesn't mean it doesn't work. So I want to look at my golden sheet of paper of my notes for this game. I do believe that is all I have to say for the game itself. Let's kind of go out into the rest of the playoffs now. So with Dallas getting embarrassed and clowned in their own house, their first loss at home in like a year and a half, or basically a year and a half, to the Packers, to the only 7th seed that's ever won a game, to the youngest roster who's ever been to the playoffs, kicked the crap out of the 2 seed at home Dallas Cowboys. So what that means is that we host another playoff game. That means that the winner of the Bucks and the Eagles will come to Detroit and get that same energy as we gave them against the Rams. And I'll tell you what, either way, I like the matchup. The Rams were, I would say, one of the scariest teams in the playoffs, at least on the NFC side this year. Obviously, you got San Francisco, the sleeping giants, on their bye week. Yes, obviously they're included in this. But them and the Rams, or the Niners and the Rams, were some of the scariest teams in the playoffs. Dallas, if you have to play them at home as well. But now that Dallas is gone, now that the Rams are gone, the only teams that are left are San Fran, Philly, Green Bay, or Philly or Tampa Bay. And, you know, when you look at it now, the Lions got a shot here, guys. Some of the scariest teams are out now. Dallas and the Rams, they're out now. Yes, the Packers are a bit scary as well, but I mean the divisional round of the playoffs, you're going to get those teams, but there's a path here, ladies and gentlemen. Either the Bucs or the Eagles, we are better than both of them. We beat Tampa Bay in their house this year, and Philly is a dumpster fire. So it looks like it is more than likely, I would say, from my perspective now, it is most likely that you're going to see the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game, most likely against the 49ers. I'll save my thoughts if that happens. I'm not going to go into it now. It's too early for that. But we could see the Lions get to the NFC Championship game. It's not crazy to say so. And in terms of who I would want between the two, between Tampa Bay and between the Eagles, I would want to see Tampa Bay. And here's why. So my theory is that if Philly wins, I know they don't have A.J. Brown, so it might be a little bit tougher, but if the Eagles win, that might mean that they've rekindled their spirits. That they might mean that they might get back to that Super Bowl mentality and attitude and go back to the 10-1 side of the season, not the 1-5 side. So if Philly gets it, I'm worried that they'll catch fire like that again. I don't want to see that. What I want to see is a Bucs team that won the worst division. I like Baker Mayfield, but I like the quarterback matchup. He's not as mobile as Jalen Hurts is. That's another thing, the mobility of the quarterbacks. But I would rather face Baker Mayfield, who is battling through his own injuries as well. He's not as mobile and has the potential to be had by the Detroit Lions at pass rush. So I would want to see that over the Eagles. And especially with the Eagles O-line. I mean, I know they're not as good as they used to be nowadays, but I like our pass rush against Tampa rather than Philly's beefy O-line. So, and I think that Tampa's going to win it either. Also, I mentioned that earlier this week on YouTube. Be sure to go to the GioMoShow on YouTube and Spotify to hear my picks from last week, or picks for this Super Wildcard weekend. Still got a couple of games, so go there. Go check it out. Like, subscribe, 5-star review on Spotify. Let's see what I picked. I picked Tampa to win. I picked Buffalo to win, to go to the AFC side of things. So we'll see if I'm right tonight. I believe we got one of the games at 3:30, and then the other one's at the nighttime slot. But to me, it seems like it's going to be the Packers and the Niners, and it's going to be the Lions and the Bucs in the NFC side. I haven't paid as much attention to the AFC side. We'll get to all that when it shakes out next week. But to sum up all this kind of wild here and there, NFC, this team is this. I think we can make it to the NFC Championship game. The path is there. You have another home playoff game against inferior competition. Now, all the boxes have been checked for this season. You won the division and you won a playoff game. Everyone preseason was saying that would mark a successful season. And now we're just here getting extra credit. I agree with that. But I also would hate to see them lose a game that they could win. So when you zoom out and when the season's over, absolutely the season was a success. But in the moment now, it's win or go home, obviously. You got to win this one. You can beat both those teams. Get to the NFC Championship game and mark your spot for the future to be a Super Bowl contender. This is the season to cement the fact that you are a Super Bowl contending team. That's what I got for you guys on the GioMo Show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the new time slot of Mondays at noon, 12 to 1 on WXOU is the new home of the GioMo Show. Be sure to follow me on social media, YouTube and Spotify, to keep up to everything with the GioMo Show. Coming up at 2 o'clock, we got the Blue Ski Mask Show, your home for Detroit Lions and Detroit Pistons talk here on WXOU, hosted by Oakland Post sports editor Brock Hillig and sports reporter Kirk Szymanski. So thank you, everybody, from WXOU, from Giovanni Moscieri. This has been the GioMo Show.